Anyway, so I'm probably going to be downvoted to hell for saying these kind of things. It's probably going to sound blasphemous to people, but hear me out. I think that people are way way too playing things or just doing things way too fast nowadays. Now I'm going to be talking about a lot about Path of Exile 2, mainly just because I would like to give examples about things that I actually know what I'm talking about. But there was this recent patch for Path of Exile 2 Early Access, that's the game I'm playing currently, where a specific build or a specific skill category was nerfed, which was the cast on triggers. Cast on freezing, cast on shock, and so on. Now, people have been playing those builds quite a bit because some streamers found out that they're quite good, quite insane, I think you could say, quite quick and quite well easy to play. And I think they're rather easy to build as well. You just basically need intelligence and whatever else, right? Well, I haven't gotten there yet, so pardon me for my ignorance. But people just want to get to this sort of idea of endgame as soon as they can. Now, by endgame, I mean, you know, like the whole mapping and grinding for items and making your character all the more powerful. And while I'm still doing the campaign, I have played Path of Exile 1 for quite a lot. Well, it's 700 hours isn't something that would make me a pro in Path of Exile, but it would probably put me on the benchmark of being, well, understanding quite a bit of it, right? Not enough to make my own build. Hence why I'm probably struggling with my current build, but I do have some ideas to improve that, and well, it is an early access game. And this brings me to my point of being too fast, right? Now, what I think GG intended, at least what it seems to me, is they intended to make a slower paced game, sort of like something that PoE 1 was on launch, which I haven't played, to be honest, but from all the discourse I've been hearing, it used to be a rather slow game and rather more strategic and methodical. At least for the whole campaign. I mean, in early access, I think they also released only parts of the campaign, and then they kept on releasing more and more. But it was slow and methodical at first. Nowadays, Path of Exile 1, at least, is a... What's the best way to put this? I think a clusterfuck would be a very good and apt description of the game. Your goal in Path of Exile 1 is not to experience, let's say, the campaign and see what's up there. Your goal is to zoom as fast as you can through the campaign, get to the end game as soon as possible, and get to a point in the game where you are able to just melt everything in the screen with one button click. And that's been the current way of playing Path of Exile, basically, the first game again. If I'm saying Path of Exile, means it's the first game I'm referring to. So, that's been the kind of goal of how you're playing the game for, I don't know how long, at least since I started, which was season or League 17. I think it was the 17th League, the Crucible League. That's when I started playing Path of Exile, and back then you already had insane builds that, are supposed to go fast and kill fast. And I think it's reasonable to believe that that's what people are expecting from Path of Exile 2. It's the same developer and, well, the same game, just the second iteration of it, right? So I think people have, gotten used to that whole playstyle, and that's what brings them back. That's why Path of Exile has such a big player base. I'm sure it's smaller now because, well, everyone's playing Path of Exile too. But it's probably a very big dissonance between what people are used to, which was the Path of Exile 1 gameplay, the fast, eye-melting type of game, and this, which is a more Souls-like is, I think that people have been throwing that around, but it does kind of make sense here. Although I don't like that distinction, so let's just get that out of the way. It kind of looks and feels like one, but it's still an ARPG. It's still, you know, the main focus is not, you know, killing bosses and whatever. The main focus is building your character. At least that's what people seem to want from the game. That's what they were conditioned to want, and that's what I think a lot of games nowadays do. Any other non-ARPG or even an ARPG game released in the last maybe like 10 years doesn't really care about the whole journey, right? They only care about the destination, the end game, the late grind, making number go big, and it doesn't seem to me like Path of Exile 2 is something that is a game like that. It's not a game that you need to expect to be in the end game, building your character, min-maxing all the builds and whatever else. It's more intended to be an experience through and through, and I actually enjoy that a lot. I think I might even enjoy it more than Path of Exile 1. Well, we are still playing early access, right? So things tend to change, and this is the reason why this whole discourse has started. I think I've been here already, right? No, I haven't. Okay. So it's reasonable to expect that people want that, but I don't think that they need. People need to curve their. No, I'm actually not gonna do story while I'm grinding. People need to curb their expectations. They need to change their expectations. People need to slow down. That's what I'm. That's the whole idea that I'm trying to give you all. Let's talk about the recent nerfs, right? So the recent nerfs targeted a specific playstyle, the cast and trigger. I think most people used cast and freeze, but I'll try to use cast and shock. But anyways. It was heavily nerfed where you're no longer able to easily and quickly trigger spells that are inserted as support gems into these cast on trigger or cast and freeze, cast and shock, cast and crit, whatever, spells. And I've seen so much negative discourse about it on social media and so on, mainly on Reddit pretty much. And that's I think comes specifically from that whole idea that you need to get there as soon as you can, and you need to do that whole, you know, power fantasy part of the game where you are able to like melt everything in one button click, right? Which, as I've established, this game isn't, right? And people are very upset that they are no longer able to build their character. They're no longer able to play the way they wanted to play. And I think that's kind of insane to expect and to want. If you found out, or if you followed, or if you played a broken build like cast and trigger, you shouldn't really expect that to last if it's broken, if it's not something that the developers intended, which obviously they didn't. Now, one place where I can defend the people that are angry with this whole idea is the fact that people had built their characters on that whole cast on trigger playstyle, and since it was, well, heavily dissuaded, or, well, nerfed completely, they're no longer able to just use their characters, right? They built their characters to do these massive triggered, you know, explosions and whatever else, and now they can't do it. Now their build is weak, and the fact that they weren't given any methods of rebuilding their characters, like, let's say, just a couple of free points that you can just click off and refund some of the skill points or the passive points. That would have been a good idea. I can give you that, sure. I would really dislike my character. Let's say GGG completely nerfs lightning damage, right? So, to the point where it deals like only 10% of the damage it currently dealt. I would really be upset because my character is built around dealing lightning damage. I think that's pretty obvious. And that would mean that my character is... I either have to uh, grind very painfully for the amount of gold to be able to respec my passive skill tree, or just start a new character, which would probably be a monk anyway. But still. So I get that. I understand that part. But I've seen GIFs, I've seen videos of people deleting their Path of Exile and Path of Exile just because they are no longer able to play this kind of build. And I think that's well, childish is a word that comes to my mind. I'm not sure if that completely conveys a point in a respectful manner, but it is childish. Let's just leave it there. And that whole this whole side of the discourse, I think, pretty much comes from the fact that people are expecting a Path of 1X experience in Path of Exile 2, which again is definitely not something you should have expected. People just want to play this fast and loose, but it's a very slow and methodical game. And I don't know, it just seems to me like people are kind of either spoiled or ruined, or people, I mean gamers, and in all seriousness, it's only really a small minority of the gamers anyway. So it's not that big of an impact, but it still affects a game that I really enjoy. I am planning on doing a cast on shock build anyway, even though it's been nerfed. I just want to see how it looks like. But since, you know, I'm trying to do this post the post the nerf, I don't think I'll be affected that much by the whole nerfing of my build. I'll be ready to change it afterwards. And I think that's what the game is supposed to be like, because this whole mentality that you need to get to that power fantasy as soon as possible makes people just follow the trend, the one or two cookie cutter builds that people found others use, like streamers, for example, and they seems to me like they're forgetting or not. I think you could, they're just gimping themselves from experiencing the game, you know, in a way that it's I think intended to be experienced. Here I am, you know, a rather maybe decent Path of Exile 1 player. I did kill a couple of pinnacle bosses, so I think that counts. Here I am, you know, playing the build that I want to build, even though it might not be good. I actually didn't even use the infusion support on my Herald, which was bugged and was now fixed, and that was also a thing that people were upset about. I kind of just didn't find that myself. But anyways, I'm just playing the game slowly. I am currently in Act 3. Can I do /played? I've played for 13 hours and I'm currently, I think, not even midway to Act 3. I've rebuilt my character once already because I got to a big wall in Act 2. I wasn't able to clear the Trial of the Second, I think it's called. But then, you know, read a bit about what people are having luck with. I tried to adapt that in a way that I would like to play, and well, it worked out for me. And I think that's how you need to. You should expect to experience the game. You know, slowly working your way towards one goal or another. My current goal is to try and clear the Trial of Chaos, which again, my build sucks and I'm grinding gold to rebuild it, but I am in no rush at all to get to the late game, to be honest with you. I don't think that that's necessary. I know that it's going to be fun. The most fun I had with Path of Exile is the late game. The campaign, sure, I did it once, followed the story, and then I just looked for the fastest way to clear it without, you know, doing too much effort. But and I'm sure I'll do the same in Path of Exile 2 once it fully launches. I'll experience the game fully as it's intended, I'll try my own build as far as I can, try something that I enjoy. And if that doesn't work out, I might consider, following a build, but still, it's my goal is just to experience the game, just to see what you can do, what you can achieve, how it's maybe intended, maybe not intended to be. Maybe I'll find the next broken build, right? Who knows? And if I do, I'll definitely be happy. I'll definitely enjoy the game, and I'll continue using that build until it gets nerfed. But that's definitely not my goal, and it's not something that I expect. I think I can. As a closing argument, I think I could tell you a bit of a story about expectations that I personally have implemented before. Now, this might make you click off the video, but I used to play League of Legends a lot. I used to one-trick a certain champion. I used to play a lot of champions. I played through all kinds of seasons. I play ranked. I did a lot of League of Legends, basically, a couple of years. And at first I was pretty bad. I I didn't know how to play any of the characters. I built them horribly. I was just a very bad player at the beginning. And then at some point I had some more free time. I think I studied and I kind of skipped a lot of classes, so, I had a lot of free time. I decided to try and learn the game. And what I did is I started playing ranked. Well, I actually needed to grind some points to buy characters, because you had to have like a set amount of characters to be able to start playing ranked. Anyways, so I started playing ranked. And that's like the most toxic way you can play League of Legends. Highly not recommending you to do that. But anyways. And my goal was to learn the game and get better, right? I think that's everyone's goal. But the way I went around with learning the game is I picked a character that I enjoyed, which was Katarina, back before a rework, so she was very quick and twitchy. Anyways, I picked a character, and my character, Katarina, was a character which could be very easily countered and shut down by a simple crowd control skill. Let's say a freeze in Path of Exile 2 in League of Legends would just be a button you click on an enemy and then the enemy freezes, right? So they get stunned, they get crowd controlled, and that would, well, pretty much shut down that specific character that I played with. So before every game I started checking out who's going to be my opponent in the lane that I'm playing. That was the middle lane, but basically who would be my opponent, I would be one versus one-ing for the bigger part of the game. And I started just checking the character that I'm going up against and learning their skill set, checking, well, not the entire skill set, just checking which skills the character has that could be a threat to me, that could, have some sort of crowd control, or would be able to poke me or just keep on damaging me from range, because, well, my character was melee. So anyways, I kept on learning on what character does what, and I also kept a mentality that my enemy, my opponent in the lane, my dance partner, you could say, was a better player than me. Even though I might be, good and whatever, I always just thought that they are... Anyways, I always thought that they are way better than me. And what that made me do is that made me, first of all, not be angry when I lost. And second of all, I played a lot more carefully. I played a lot more... I played a lot safer. I played a lot more methodically. And I always was mindful of what my opponent could do, right? So, as a good comparison, my brother did the same. He also played League of Legends, he also played Ranked, but he thought that he was a good player and that he was better than someone else, and when he lost, he would rage. And I think that's a very common thing that happens in League of Legends. Let's take Tyler 1, for example. Of course, he's just pretending, and a lot of times, I think. Who doesn't know Tyler 1 is just a very popular League of Legends streamer who is known for raging. At least he used to be. I'm not sure if it changed. I haven't followed him for a long time. Anyways, rage is something that my brother would do often because, well, in the lower levels of play in you know League of Legends ranked, you would there would be a lot of kills being traded back and forth, and you would die quite often. That's no longer the case in later leagues, later ranks, but you know, he wasn't good. My brother wasn't good, so he would die often, and every time he did, he would be very upset. He would even, you know, start banging the table and shouting and so on. It wasn't really that pleasant, but it's a very good example of what a proper state of mind, proper expectations can bring you. If you don't expect something that's not reasonably achievable, you shouldn't really try and expect that. And people nowadays, or gamers nowadays, expect to just breeze through the story and go to the end game, go to the, you know, the interesting part, because that's what they are made to expect from all of these, you know, all these slop games nowadays. And Path of Exile is just a very fresh breath of air where you are, and well, it's enticing enough to just slow down and do your own thing and just learn the game, see what works, what doesn't, experiment. Of course, experimentation isn't as encouraged as it could be, since, you know, respecking is also incurs heavy costs, but it also kind of seems like it's intended, at least to me, seeing as, you know, the developers kind of need to know what's going to be the whole economy behind respecking your skills and whatever else. Anyways, so yeah, I think that's going to be the end of my rant. All I wanted to say is you just have to slow down, change your expectations, and just try to enjoy the game and stop being such a crybaby online. And as always, stay sane. If you liked the video, go ahead and leave it a like and subscribe and whatever else. I'll go back to playing some Path of Exile, and if you agree or disagree with me, feel free to leave some comments. Even the bad ones, I always read them all. Anyways, cheers.